Hey family, what's going on? My name is Heavenly X, and I'm super happy and grateful to be here with you today to drop some gems for you. Drop some keys. That way you can pick up these keys and open up some doors. That's why my brand is Viva En Heaven, which translates to live in heaven, right? Because so many of us live in hell. And the reason why is because we're not taught how to better our life. We're essentially not taught how to have a heaven on earth, right? Despite what you believe about afterlife, there's a reason why you're here today. There's a reason why you're granted the gift of life. And I can guarantee you, family, it is not to wait for your death. Right? Why would the Most High create us if we're supposed to wait for our death? Right? You should be enjoying and living the life that you were born to live, right? Viva en Heaven. To start off, I do want again to thank each and every one of you for tapping all the way in. I want to speak into existence that you're manifesting yourself, overcoming every obstacle, because every level is a new devil, right? And because every level has a new devil, that means we have to constantly evolve. We constantly have to teach ourselves. We constantly have to tap into our higher frequency, right? We're constantly having to overcome. And that's the great thing about life, because we're overcomers, right? We're the highest form of creation. Therefore, we can overcome and conquer anything that this life has to offer us. And that's blessing on blessings, right? But what I want to talk to you about today, family, is how to overcome any obstacle that comes your way, right? Now, of course, there are many, many ways to do so, right? There are a lot of ways to overcome things. But I'm going to just drop a few basic keys to overcoming any obstacle. A young man had messaged me, I believe it was on Facebook. He had messaged me and asked me if I had any advice to someone who was going through something hard in their life. And what I told him was, I didn't know who he was, but a quick message doesn't hurt nobody, right? So I let him know, despite what is going on in your life, right? What are you focusing on? The question is, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the problem? Or are you focusing on how to correct the problem, right? Where do you focus at? If you focus on the negative, which is the problem, then the after effects is gonna be a problem, right? And that is a hard concept for a lot of people to digest, because we go through so many things in life. It's so hard not to focus on it. Especially when you have this negative mindset, you're constantly going through things, right? For me, you guys heard me say it before, I was so negative before. Not because I wanted to be negative and I wanted to live this unhappy life. I just didn't know better, family. I didn't know better. I was always in survival mode, like so many of us are. We're all in survival mode because we all have to pay bills. We all have to live. And because we were never taught how to overcome obstacles, how to do this, that, and the other, how to become the best version of ourselves, we're stuck in a cycle of going to work, literally living at the job and coming home and sleeping, right? No time to better yourselves, let alone no time to correct your problems. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was looking back on my life. I like to reflect and really tap into what were the key moments that my life started to change for the better. What happened prior to, and what was the thing that changed my mindset, made me realize, right? And I was thinking the other day, there were so many things in my life that would go wrong back in the day. Like, you guys have no idea. But I hated it because a lot of the things that would go wrong, they were simple fixes. Like, for example, driver's licenses or whatever, if there's court, whatever the case may be. But all those things would happen during the day, or they were only open during the day. You know what I mean? Like, even to go to the doctor or get baby girl checkup. You know, a lot of things that could be fixed rather simply if we had time, right? We were not able to because of the job. There were so many problems I used to go through that were prolonged, that were stressful because they were prolonged. And I couldn't handle them because the job would not let me leave work. They would not let me leave work. And that's crazy to think, because if you have any kind of condition, you need to go to the doctor, and the job is like, no, you know. I remember my first legal job, I was 16, and I was pregnant at the time. And I was extremely nauseous, you know, during that pregnancy. And I wasn't, the father of that, my child was not any kind of man. So I was the only one working. You know, I'm only 16, you know, and I'm working all these hours. They used to work us like slaves, you know. The GM was horrible. Well, anyway, Christmas Eve, the job would always have us deep clean Christmas Eve, and we were closed Christmas Day, right? Well, I remember that Christmas Eve, I was so nauseous, family, like bad, running to the restroom every 10 minutes. And my GM is getting mad at me for running to the restroom every 10 minutes. And I let him know, like, yo, I'm pregnant. I'm extremely nauseous. All these chemicals you have me working with is really making me sick. I couldn't go on break because I would get fired, he said. And I couldn't leave because I would get fired, he said. Now imagine a 16-year-old with no guidance. The guy she's relying on, the guy she has chosen to love, is of no help or value, right? And so I'm really just alone with a child in my womb, stressed out of my mind, right? And that's aside from all the personal issues I had going on, right? Because again, I'm 16 on my own, right? So there were a lot of things, a lot of reasons that I was on my own. You know what I mean? It wasn't just because, oh, I wanted to run away. No, I needed to leave. It was a matter of life or death, family, right? So, but aside from all my personal issues, I'm at risk of losing my job. And sadly enough, family, I ended up miscarrying that child. And there were so many things that went on during that time frame that really made it hard to dignify what happened during my pregnancy. Like, what could I really have done differently? Or was it just a compound effect of everything that was going on in my life? You see what I'm saying, family? Having these jobs, they really take away from our ability to solve our own problems, because they want to work us like slaves to solve their problems. My last full-time job, I was a supervisor at a call center. And again, they worked us like slaves. They had mandatory overtime during the holidays. It was just crazy. You know what I mean? It was super crazy. And that's all I did. I solved problems all day long, you know? If the people below me couldn't solve the issue, they would send the call to me. Or if they asked for a supervisor, they send the call to me, right? And all I would do is solve problems after problems, but I never had time to solve my own, right? So that's really something to take into consideration, right? Because these jobs make it so hard for us to become the best versions of ourselves. And to be quite honest with you, family, in order to become the best version of ourselves, we need to overcome our obstacles. You know, this generation, they call losses L's, right? Like if you take an L, they say, right? Well, I see L's as lessons, right? And any kind of obstacle you may come across does not matter. It does not matter at all what kind of obstacle it is, what kind of trial you may be facing. It does not matter. If you're faced with an obstacle, if you're faced with a trial, if you're faced with any kind of hard times, that is there for you. That is set for you to grow. The obstacle that you're going through or went through was placed there for you to overcome, for you to reach down inside of yourself and pull something out that you didn't know was there. L's or lessons, obstacles, right? Rough times, they are literally there for you to become who you were meant to be. And I can say that with pure conviction, and the factuality of that statement is crucial. Because once you change your mindset into realizing that every obstacle is here to strengthen your strengths. I'm going to say that again. Every obstacle is there, placed before you to strengthen your strengths. Once you start thinking that way, everything changes. You no longer have trials. You no longer take losses because you're learning, right? Even if you take a fall, right? Even if you take a few steps back, or get knocked a few steps back rather, but you see it as a lesson because you specifically look for the lesson in that obstacle, then you won. You won because you're gonna come back wiser, smarter, stronger, and you're gonna be able to solve that issue. You're gonna be able to overcome that issue, right? It's extremely powerful, the mindset, right? Because the mindset is everything. The mindset is everything. So if you don't have the correct mindset going into a problem, you're not gonna have the correct outcome. You're not gonna have the outcome you want, right? For me, when I started, let's see, it was up until maybe, no, I can't even say that, because all my life, I made it a point to learn through other people's mistakes. You know, I've always felt that a person is wise if they can learn through observation, right? Some things I had to learn through experience, and I've learned through those experiences, right? But a lot of things I was blessed to be able to learn through observation, you know? And so within doing so, I avoided a lot of things in my life. For example, you know, I grew up in the barrio, you know, where there were gangs, at least back then. And I had a lot of friends, you know, in different places. And a lot of them, because I'm a real loyal individual, you know, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, the best way I know how, right? Well, I've always been a unique individual, very reliable, you know, and that's not coming from any kind of cocky standpoint, but just being real, right? Like I have to say, I know who I am. I know my strengths, my weaknesses, and my powers, right? Back in the day, so many people wanted me to join their gangs. You know, the Sureños, you know, they wanted me to join their gangs. And even though I understood why they were joining gangs, you know, I chose not to. I always said no. I always said no because that was not in me. You know, I'm definitely gonna do what I have to do to survive, but I'm not gonna claim no set. You know, I'm not gonna claim no set. I'm not gonna get into that cycle, you know. And that's coming from a young age, like around 12, 13, 14, right? that's coming from a young age, right? So my entire life, I was able to learn, right, through observation. Even when I lost my child, I looked for the lesson there. Because that family, if you've ever lost a child, even though it was a miscarriage, it's something no one talks about, and it's so, so, so painful. I do have the blessing of having a 4-year young baby girl, right? My miscarriage happened about a year before she was conceived. And I have to tell you, family, my miscarriage, I lost my first child when my baby was about 10 weeks. And I know the doctor is what caused the miscarriage, but that's another story for another day. But I lost my child, right? And the passing of that fetus was more painful, was more excruciating than having a full term 8-pound baby. You know, passing death, going through death to past death was extremely, extremely painful. You know, and the fact of losing my first child was devastating. I'm gonna start crying over here, family. It was devastating. You know, so even at the age of 16, I looked for the lesson there. Because I did firmly understand that God is the best planner, most wise. You know, and I fully understood that it was not, my first child's name is Jariah, right? It was not Jariah's time to come into this world. And when I would sit there and ponder about it, I would think to myself, this world is so evil. I say I wanted the best for my Jariah, and if coming into this world was not the best thing for him, I'm okay with that. And I started to dissect, what was I doing that could have been done better? Thinking was one of them, right? I should have thought long before I had gotten pregnant. I should have made better decisions, right? And this is coming from a real standpoint, a thought process that we can take and apply to every aspect of our life, right? I would think I should have made better choices. You know, who am I to think that I'm 16 and I can have a baby? No, I had a lot of growing up to do, right? Right, so I would think I need to make better choices. I need to calculate my steps before I even take one. I was not eating the best I could eat. I was not in a healthy relationship, right? There were so many things. I was in a horrible work environment, my personal life. You see what I'm saying? Bottom line is, I realized the foundation of my life was so unstable. How in the hell do I have the right to bring in another life into my life and pass my burden on to that child? You see what I'm saying, family? Within that thought process, I was able to overcome what had happened, because I was not going to let that happen again. In my mind at that time, at the age of 16, if I were to ever have a baby again, if I were ever to get pregnant, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that baby has an amazing life. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that baby is full term, healthy, got that baby fat, you know what I mean? I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I don't make the same mistakes. Now, when you transfer that thought process onto everything else in life, it's amazing. It's amazing, family. That's how you can overcome anything in life, is by asking yourself questions. So many of us want to beat ourselves down over a mistake, over a trial, over pain and betrayal. And that's where we fuck up, family. Excuse my language. That's where we mess up, because we're focusing on the problem. And it's not bad enough that we're going through this issue. We're beating ourselves up mentally as well. There were times I've done stuff or I've gone through things and it would just kill me, literally. You know, I'd be in so much pain mentally, physically. It didn't, you know, I would just beat myself up like, Heavenly, why would you do that? Why would you do that? You know, like just beating yourself up over it. And what is that gonna do? You know, if you have children, or maybe your parents were like this with you, what kind of life is that? You know, my mom, well, I don't want to say my mom, but growing up, you know, we had that issue. You know, there was so much pain in our house, so no one knew how to deal with it. No one had that education, right? So we were caught up in the mix, emotionally detached, right? Emotionally all over the place, you know? So if there was a problem in our household, that person that fucked up was gonna get it, right? And the childhood and the mental state that I grew up in, the environment, shaped my mentality. Now, we all have the power to change, right? We all have to accept responsibility for our lives. You know, as a child growing up, it's a little different, right? But when you become an adult, that's when you have to make a conscious decision to take full responsibility of your life. And so many of us don't. So many of us choose to continue to take blame. So many of us choose to continue to beat ourselves down when something happens. When a trial, an obstacle arises, we want to beat ourselves down, stress ourselves out until we have health conditions, right? Until our appearances are beginning to reflect our circumstances. So many of us beat ourselves down, right? To the fact that we avoid our issues. We look forward to getting drunk and wasted, just to get a little sense of happiness. But what happens after we indulge in alcohol, right? What happens afterwards? We have bad hangovers, right? Most of us anyway. We have horrible hangovers. You see what I'm saying? You can't just cover up a problem and expect it to go away. My mom used to always say that you can't just indulge in escapism and expect a problem to go away. You can't drink and expect a problem to go away. You can't smoke, do drugs and expect a problem to go away, because the problem will still be there until you deal with it. Like I was saying, so many of us as adults, we're just so mentally fucked up, family, that we don't think about how to resolve issues. We run from them. So many of us run from our issues, and it's prolonging our suffering. When you start to become an adult, you become an adult when you take full responsibility for your life. I heard an OG say that you hit a man age when you begin to manage your life. I'm gonna say that again. You hit a man age when you begin to manage your life. When you take full responsibility for what's going on in your life, then you start to begin to take control over your life. For example, if you've been hurt, say someone does you dirty, whether it's in business, relationship, family, friend, what have you. Say someone does you dirty and you're upset because obviously it left you in the back seat. It left you maybe 10 steps back. Like they did you mad dirty, right? and you're blaming this person, like you did me dirty, how could you do this, this, that, and the other, right? But when you step back and you're at that man age to where you're managing your own life, you're able to step back and realize, yeah, this individual did me dirty, this job did me dirty, what have you, right? They did me dirty. But why did I allow them to do me dirty? And you start to reflect. You start to realize there were signs, that individual, that job, that circumstance, there were signs there indicating that there was about to be a bad outcome. And how many of us ignore the signs? I've done that myself. You ignore the signs because you want to believe that's not true. You want to believe that that picture that you created in your own mind is factual. But then that individual shows you who they truly are and completely shatters the picture you painted of them. You see what I'm saying? So when you sit back and you start to manage your life, become responsible for everything in your life, you start to realize that you had a part in everything that went wrong. Again, as a child, it's a little different, right? But as an adult, you have a part in everything that goes wrong. Everything. I'm not just talking to you, family. I'm talking to myself. Everything I say to you, I've said to myself. I've done it myself. And I can say with full conviction the factuality and the truth behind my words, because they become actions, right? I've done that. I've been in relationships and I did not want to believe that that person was something other than that picture I painted of them in my mind. I didn't want to believe it. And that prolonged my suffering until finally they shattered that picture. They lit that picture on fire that I created of them. And it left me 10 steps back. It knocked me 10 steps back. Knocked me on my face, what have you. And I had to really sit down and realize, this individual, for example, this individual lied to me on this day, or he lied to me about that, or they lied to me about this. And I chose to believe what they had to say. I knew they were lying, but I chose to believe this. You see what I'm saying? Or they told me this, but their actions are not matching up with what they're saying. But I'm choosing to believe them. You see what I'm saying? I was disregarding my own intuition. I was not listening to myself. I was listening to the other individual. And that's where I always went wrong. That's where I always went wrong. You see what I'm saying, family? Even when it comes to my environment, it got to the point to where I made it, in anybody's eyes, I made it. I had I had the same living conditions as people 5 times my age. Excuse me, family. I had a full-time, good-paying job. Baby girl was taken care of. I was actually about to get her into a daycare right next to my job that offered me a discount because it's right next to the job, right? I had all these things going for me, and in other people's eyes, I made it. And I should have been happy. But that's when I realized something needed to change. I would be sitting on the couch with the few hours I had after work, right, to relax. And I would just sit there, almost depressed. Like it wasn't even, I was in survival mode anymore. It's like the survival mode turned into depression because I had no need to think survival. I was comfortable. You feel what I'm saying? I was comfortable. Like I could literally live the same life I'm living right now for the rest of my life, and people would think I'm doing good. People would think that I made it. You see what I'm saying, family? But when those thoughts started to arise and I realized I wasn't happy, I needed to evaluate, what am I doing? I needed to take full responsibility for my own happiness. You see what I'm saying, family? I literally had to let go of everyone who was leeching off of me, sucking the blood and life out of me, so I can find myself. I had to take responsibility in order to change my situation. And for so long, I blamed other people. Let me tell you a little story, right? So this whole paradigm shift began to happen in the beginning of 2019. And I had been through a lot of pain prior to that. Pain that would always leave me 10 steps behind. And I hated playing catch up. You know what I mean? I hated playing catch up, you know? And because of the situations I put myself in, although they're the ones that did me dirty, I put myself in that situation. I used to blame them for doing me so dirty, leaving me in this situation, you know, breaking my heart, you know, whatever the case may be. I blamed them until I realized that I'm the one who allowed them to even enter my life. I'm the one who allowed them my energy, allowed them access to who I am, to my being, my essence, my frequency. You see what I'm saying? I'm the one who chose them. You see what I'm saying? Although they may have chose me as well, I'm the one who said yes. You see? And it could be vice versa, right? That's when I realized they're not the problem. I'm the problem. I need a change in order for me to have change. You see what I'm saying? I needed to take full responsibility for the position that they may have put me in. I needed to take full responsibility for my financial situation because I was not managing my money right. You see what I'm saying? I needed to take full responsibility for my cars breaking down because I was not taking care of my cars. I need to take full responsibility of being a mom because I chose to have my daughter. You see what I'm saying? I would never have an abortion. However, I chose to produce life. You see what I'm saying? I chose these men. So I need to accept the condition they put me in because I chose to walk with them. You see what I'm saying? I needed to accept that the job put me in such a condition that it feels like you're never gonna crawl out of that hole. I need to accept what the job did to me because I chose to be hired by them. I chose to go work for them. I chose to sell myself for the $12 an hour. I chose to do that. Within choosing that job, I chose to not be a mother figure to my daughter because I was never there for my daughter. Because I was always at work. I was working over 70 hours a week. I was not a mother to my daughter. I was merely a caretaker. I had to accept the condition I put myself in. And once you accept the condition you're in, and you realize and recognize the role you played to be in that condition, that's when everything changes. That's when you begin to make plans. That's when you start to overcome. Because you can't overcome when you don't look over. You can't overcome when you don't overlook. I don't want to say overlook. You can't overcome when you don't look into the situation. You can't overcome anything if you feel or if you mentally perceive that you are not responsible for the outcome. If you take that responsibility away from yourself, you're merely a child. You're merely a child running around in a grown person's body because you're not taking responsibility for your life. You're still stuck in that child, oh, they made me do it, or they did that to me, they did this to me. They didn't teach me that. You're merely a child if you don't rise up out of that thinking. Like I said, in order to hit that man age, you need to manage your life. Responsibility, family, is so key. Because you can't overcome your life if you do not control your life. How many of us have allowed life to live us instead of us live life? I'm going to say that again. How many of us have allowed life to live us instead of us living life? We all have, including myself. If you don't take control of your life, you will never overcome any obstacle, family. But once you start accepting responsibility for everything that goes wrong and everything that goes good in your life, that's when you begin to overcome, control, and adapt to every and any situation. I told you I wanted to talk about how to overcome anything in your life. And to sum it up for you, plain as can be, the key to overcome anything in your life is to take full responsibility for everything in your life. The key to overcome anything in your life is to take full responsibility for everything in your life. There are a lot of things in this world, family, that you just can't believe happened to you. So evil. It's like things have happened to us that are so evil. You ask God, why did He allow that to happen? You know, from being abused violently, mentally, physically, spiritually, right? From being taken advantage of, right? There are so many things in this world that happen that are so evil that we just cannot overcome it. We feel like we're stuck. And I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I feel my life is a testimony. Because when I look back, I can't believe I've come this far. It's amazing. You know, but I have been taken advantage of. And not just one time. I have been taken advantage of. And that being taken advantage of, family, is so, there's not a word for it. You know, it's such a hard situation. And there is really no way for us to even get out of that situation. We just move on with our life. You know, and even like if for women, when you get taken advantage of and you even if you go to the police, police conduct that manner in such a way that it makes it 10 times worse. You know, the whole situation, even if you're physically being abused, mentally, verbally, spiritually, what have you, that can create so much pain within ourselves that we just really don't know how to overcome. And the only thing we know how to do is just keep moving. Survival mode. You see what I'm saying? For all my ladies out there, and even my men that have been taken advantage of, who have been physically abused, mentally, spiritually, verbally abused, I want you to know you can overcome that. I have overcome it. I've been physically abused. I've been mentally abused, verbally abused. I've been taken advantage of, family, and I'm here to tell you, you can overcome anything. You can overcome anything in this life. Overcome anything, family, because you are such a magnificent being. You are such a magnificent being. You're so powerful that when you focus on overcoming, when you focus on that positive solution, then that's when you overcome. That's when you put that energy into that solution, and all of a sudden that solution manifests, and you're such a stronger, powerful being for that. You know, I've been abused. I want to just be honest with you guys, right? Honesty is key. And if this can help anybody out there, then I'm all for it. I've been physically and verbally abused my whole life. Growing up, right? I had been physically and verbally abused my whole life growing up. And that played such a significant role in my mindset, right? So much so that I had to escape, or it was a matter of life or death. But within overcoming that, family, I am 10 times stronger. I am 10 times wiser. And family, I can't even begin to express my gratitude for the trials I've gone through. Because I fully understand that each trial I've gone through has made me who I am. And I'm not an ordinary individual. I know I'm not, and neither are you. The things I've gone through, being taken advantage of, growing up, family, it's different, right? Because we're relying on our parents to teach us. So that's a whole different circumstance. But when you start to study and you start to tap into your higher self, you realize that people who are meant for extraordinary purposes are growing up in unordinary situations. Do you see what I'm saying? For people that have extraordinary purposes are growing up, or did grow up, in unordinary circumstances. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm gonna say that again, because I don't think you caught that. Everyone who grows up or everyone who is created to have extraordinary purposes, that is made to fulfill extraordinary purposes, are raised in un-extraordinary circumstances. Un-extraordinary circumstances. When you tap into that, you're able to overcome whatever you went through as a child. You begin to let it go because you found the lesson. You found peace in what happened. I have found peace in everything I've gone through, because I dissected everything I've gone through to pull out the lesson. Some of you may ask, well, what kind of lesson can you get when you're only a child and you're going through all this bullshit, right? You have been put into a situation that you can dissect and help other people rise up out of the situation that you were in. Or you're now in a position that you can teach your seed, and you can teach your seed treat your seed, and uplift your seed the way you were never uplifted, never taught, right? They say the University of Hard Knocks is the greatest university, and it really is, family. I heard an OG say that an hour in the field is equivalent to 20 hours in the classroom, right? I'm telling you, family, it's all about mindsets. Growing up, like I said, is different. We don't have a lot of, growing up, you don't have a lot of options. You know what I mean? It's a very it's a very different circumstance when you're growing up, right? But as you get older, when you become an adult, you know, when you start to take responsibility for everything in your life, even the trials you went through as a child, when you start to pick out the lessons, this is major key. You know, I suggest writing this down, or maybe just really rewinding this part. Just, you know, this is major key. Finding and searching for the lessons in every circumstance, in every obstacle, and every blessing. Looking for the lesson will bring you so much more peace and closure. I'm going to say that again. Looking for the lesson in every obstacle, in every trial, will bring you so much peace and understanding and purpose. Looking for the lesson will bring you so much peace, understanding, and purpose. Now that is implied to everything actually, but especially when you had a rough childhood. Searching for the lesson will again bring you peace, closure, and purpose. And it will allow you to finally let go, to overcome that trial. Because again, it takes a deeper level of understanding to realize that every trial we go through will, if you let it, will bring and breed the greatest person out of you, your higher self. Any obstacle, trial, any hurdle that you've gone through or are going through or are to go through, if you look for the lesson there, you will overcome it. Guaranteed, family. You will overcome it. Especially to those things that we had no control over, because we were adolescents, we're growing, right? Especially to those situations, because not a lot of people want to talk about that, right? Not a lot of people will go into that depths. But I feel like it's crucial to growth. It's crucial to live your life. It's crucial to overcome anything life has to offer. Because family, if you go through something that's so mentally tragic or so physically, what have you, if you go through so much trauma, but you never learned from the trauma, you never got the lessons out of it, then you never got the closure. You're never able to overcome it. And it all starts with asking yourself questions, family. You ask yourself questions. Sit alone in a quiet room, maybe with your eyes closed so you can focus a little better. Meditate and ask yourself questions. Ask yourself questions. I used to always get told that everything I've gone through, I made it look easy. Everything I had to do, I made it look easy. And the fact of the matter is, it was never easy. Nothing was ever easy. But all I did was take responsibility and search for the lesson. When my dad died, my dad passed away within the same month of my Jiraiya passing away, right? And my father is nothing to brag about. He was not in my life of any way, you know. If anything, he did more damage than any kind of good. And when he died, I wasn't able to cry. I really wasn't. But I just didn't have that emotional connection to him, you know. But it is a tragic thing, you know. My only father passes away, right? So I don't have that guidance and shit like that, you know. So of course it does weigh a toll on you. But even at that point, I looked for the lesson. You see? I was happy and grateful that he was a blessing to other people's lives. Because other people that came to his funeral, they had all these great stories to tell about him, right? And I was happy and grateful that they experienced that side of him. A side I never experienced, right? But I was happy and grateful that they did, and their lives were blessed by him. You see? Now, some people would take that offensively, personally, and be like, why didn't he help me? You know, I'm his daughter, I'm his wife, what have you. But when you focus on that, what is that gonna do? When you have that mindset, that victimized mindset, what is that gonna accomplish? What is that really gonna do for you, right? What is that gonna do? Nothing, family. Perpetuate more of the same. But when you switch the paradigm and you start to realize, like, yo, this man had a lot of impact on all these individuals, what a blessing. What a blessing. And I was there with my family, you know, my brother, my sister, my mom, you know. I met my dad's brothers for the first time, which, you know, I'm not too fond of them. I don't care to have their energy present, right? But it was a blessing. You know, I chose to see the blessing in it because to me, the lesson is the blessing. I'm going to say that again. The lesson is the blessing. The lesson is the blessing. That may be hard to digest, but again, it takes a deeper level of understanding too. Keep in mind, at that time, at that day and time, I was only 16. Having that mindset. So it's not to say that it's not to say that it's hard to achieve that mindset, because it's really not. It just takes what's that word I'm looking for? I guess determination with the intention. It takes intention. That's the word I was looking for. It takes intention to think that way. You have to intentionally think that way. I was listening to Bob Proctor today. He's a paradigm shifter. If you don't know who he is, definitely suggest looking into him. His name is Bob Proctor again. But he was saying today that when you observe people, you observe and realize a lot of people don't even think. Like when you observe them and you hear them talking, you realize a lot of them don't even think. A lot of people don't even think. When you see the things they do, you realize a lot of people don't even think. You see? So when people talk, a lot of people don't even talk with intention. They talk just to talk. When a lot of people move and do things, they don't move and do things with intention. They move and do things just to move and do things. You see what I'm saying? When you start to think with intention, you start to move and talk with intention. That's when things change, family. Right? There are a lot of things that can change the mindset and change situations for you, right? but it's all about your perspective. What are you intentionally thinking about the situation? What are you intentionally putting your energy towards in the situation? Now, I don't want to have a whole lecture, right, on how to do this, because that would be a long lecture. And I'm definitely going to make more podcasts in the future, going into more depths, right, about how to overcome everything and anything. But I'm gonna sum it up for you right now. Looking for the lesson, because the lesson is the blessing. One must intentionally look for the lesson, because the lesson is the blessing, right? The lesson will allow you to gain that closure, learn, and overcome with purpose, right? Look for the lesson, because again, the lesson is the blessing. 2, take full responsibility, especially for my adults out there. I want to say, maybe if you're in your late teens, start taking full responsibility. If you're in your late teens and up, right? When you start taking full responsibility for everything that goes wrong or right in your life, you'll be able to overcome everything. You'll be able to see the lessons as blessings, right? You'll be able to realize the steps and part you took in that blessing or lesson, right? In that trial or blessing. You see what I'm saying? When you start taking responsibility for your actions, that's when you overcome everything. And you may ask yourself, okay, well, what are some steps I can start taking to becoming more responsible? And the key is, ask yourself questions. Get to know yourself. It's a never-ending journey. I'm still getting to know myself every day. I ask myself questions every day. Even if my energy's off a little bit, I ask myself questions like, okay, what did I eat? What did I drink? Was I around somebody? Is the energy in the house good? I really, ask yourself questions. Get to know yourself. Because the more you get to know yourself, the more you realize what your strengths are and what your disadvantages may be. And when you know what your disadvantages are, that's when you begin to strengthen them and start to get rid of each and every disadvantage, right? That's when you start to get rid of them, right? Because all you need in actuality to strengthen your disadvantages is to learn. And you're your greatest teacher, right? So again, taking full responsibility for your life and your actions, your entire being, taking full responsibility, and then taking full responsibility and looking for the lessons, because the lesson is the blessing. And how do you start? Ask yourself questions. If you're going through something, ask yourself questions, okay? Like, okay, how did this happen? When did this start to change? When did this really start to create this whole situation? If you're going through a good time in your life, or maybe a blessing has been bestowed upon you, ask yourself questions. Don't question the blessing, because the blessing is the blessing, but just ask yourself questions, okay, what have I been doing to attract such a blessing? That way you can continue to do it, or maybe teach your seed how to do the same, or your friend, your family, ask yourself questions in the good and the bad, because there are lessons in all, right? One love, family. Thank you for tapping in. You have an amazing day. One love.